Hey everyone, Amy here. February is a special month for Create Magic at Work because we're going to revisit select episodes from the past 5 seasons that really embody the magic of advocating for healthy leaders, fostering thriving workplaces, and exploring the depths of spiritual intelligence. Whether you're a seasoned member of the Create Magic at Work community dedicated to cultivating positive workplaces or a newcomer exploring the intersection of leadership and spiritual intelligence, these episodes are a testament to the incredible insights and transformative conversations that have graced the Create Magic at Work podcast airwaves. So dive into the sacred moments with me that make Create Magic at Work more than just a podcast. Enjoy this walk down memory lane throughout February as we count down to the highly anticipated season 6 launching this spring. Wishing you magic in your work and life. When self-care becomes selfish. And we were actually kind of tapping into that energy or that theme, like, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? And so I'm not an expert on spiritual narcissism, but I will tell you, I can see when things feel off for myself and for others. One of them being we are hiding or becoming conflict avoidant because we have to go, quote unquote, meditate, or we haven't done our spiritual ritual for the day, so then we just can't handle the world, or we're getting into this competition space where I know more than you and I practice more spiritual rituals than you do, and oh, you read this book? Oh, well, I read that book 6 months ago. I already know that. Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true quantum leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less drama and stress. So let's start making magic.
Hello there.
Hi.
It is such an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to interview you today. But really, this is just a conversation between you and I. We've had many enlightening conversations, and I think it's just going to be such a blessing to your listeners for them to hear a little bit more about you and what you do and why they should work with you. I know that just as your fellow coach, you are one of the most amazing coaches that I have ever seen in action. Such a blessing to me in my life. And I hope that there's, many insights that come from our conversation today.
Wow, thank you. Thanks, Seyyida. Thanks for doing this. This is going to be fun, and I'm excited to be on the other side of this for the Create Magic at Work listeners and community.
Yes. So I guess my first question is, what inspired you to get into coaching?
Yeah, I didn't really know that it was going to be coaching per se. I knew I felt a call to leave my corporate job and really figure out a way to re-inject myself back into the corporate space where I was doing something that really felt like it was impactful, like work for the greater good. And that led me to getting an executive coaching certification from the UC Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute. That was a really amazing experience that helped me combine all of who I am and bring it all to the table for everyone to hopefully benefit from. So sometimes I teach, sometimes I do mentor coaching, sometimes I do peer coaching where I ask questions that maybe you tap into your inner wisdom and answer. But with spiritual intelligence, there definitely has to be some mentor coaching there, right? And some teaching just to learn the skills or to think about different things. But I always encourage everyone to check in with themselves and make sure that feels good for them when we're in a private session. I had a client one time that I recommended doing a specific activity, we'll call it, or like a ritual for something they were going through. And we met in session the next time and they said, you know what, that didn't feel right for me and I didn't do it. And I was like, amazing. Thank you. That is like skill 16 and spiritual intelligence, seeking guidance from higher self, tapping into it. Like all of these are offers. You do not have to. And that was like the work, was that individual seeking guidance from higher self and having the inner wisdom to say, no, that doesn't work for me, and having the courage to share it.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a success for me as a coach, believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I hear you're like really partnering with your clients and you're also mentoring them in many ways. What else do you feel sets you apart from other coaches?
Yeah. What a good question. So, some of the feedback that my clients give me are that this is like a white glove experience, boutique style. What sets me apart, I think, is that I incorporate this holistic approach of seeing all of you authentically and tapping into your deeper sense of purpose and meaning in life. And so we go whatever you bring to me as a client, we'll take it a step further as far as tapping into that deeper sense of meaning, which is, spiritual intelligence. We might not name it every time, but we definitely go there. I think the other thing that sets me apart, I play around a little on the Instagram space creatively. And I noticed the coaching space there is very interesting compared to the executive coaching space, the life coaching
Mm-hmm.
space. I know that everybody feels called to help that says they're a coach. And I appreciate that. I don't mean to, belittle another space, but I have noticed this paying for proximity type of vibe that's going on. Like, oh, you pay just to have access to me. I think that might be tapping into a little narcissism slightly. I know that boundary setting is important. However, when you're a client of mine, you're in my space, you're in my world. We are here for each other. We are on a partnership. We are on a journey. I am your guide in your hero's journey. And you have access to me via text, email, voice note, whatever that looks like for you outside a session. And I think that that's what one of the things that sets me apart is that has been really valuable to clients. I also, if something comes up for me intuitively, I'll automatically reach out and share that to my clients. I keep all of my clients on a special list that I'm working with. And that list is prayed for all the time. Hopefully you feel a little negative energy clearing when you're with me, but for your greatest good and with no harm to anyone, everyone is on that list that works with me.
Wow.
Is that too deep, Seyyida?
No,
Okay.
no. I think it's actually for me personally, it's very meaningful because we both went through the same program, and I believe that we're in coaching for honorable reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I see you as like not only a coach, not only a partner, a healer. You're very inspirational and just always sharing a lot of light and love. And so the fact that you make yourself accessible to your clients like that, it really is a, exceptional experience to be, a part of your client base. And I hope that the listeners are picking up on the difference between, what you're offering and what a lot of other coaches offer. I know that I have even learned a lot about how you interact with your clients and take care of your clients. I think it's a really important offering. It reminds me of actually just yesterday I was talking to one of my friends who was having some stomach issues, and she told her mom that she just texted her doctor. And her mom said, "You text your doctor?" And she said, "Yes." She said, and the doctor's office called me back within 7 minutes or something like that. It was like under 10 minutes. And her mom was like, "Wow, like that's unheard of." And my thought was, "Wow, your doctor really cares about you."
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously that's not always an option,
Mm-hmm.
but when it is an option to offer yourself in that way is just so special and so meaningful. And I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful that you're providing this to others as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's a boundary. I touched on it a little bit before, the different ways that people utilize coaching as coaches. I believe that it's a boundary that I am the one to hold. So, yes, you have my number if you're my client. Yes, you can reach out to me. I will respond when I can. And I don't feel any sort of sense of urgency if I'm in session with someone else. That's my boundary to hold. That's for me to hold for you, not for you to, oh, I don't know if I should text her right now, or I don't, that's for me to decide as the coach when you step into the space. So you don't have to worry about that. Whether I get back to you within 7 minutes might not be the case if I'm with a client or if I'm, off doing something, but I do get back to you. And that's the accessibility that I offer. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've brought up a couple hot topics, like boundaries and narcissism. I know that in one of our most recent conversations, you mentioned something, and I meant to ask you about it, so I'm going to ask you now. Hopefully that's okay. You mentioned something about spiritual narcissism.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about that and what you may observe on, within our climate today, whether it's social media or just anything else?
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is you're asking me this question, and we actually partnered on a podcast episode for the Create Magic at Work podcast. Hopefully everybody remembers Seyyida. We talked about when self-care becomes selfish. And we were actually kind of tapping into that energy or that theme, like, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? And so I'm not an expert on spiritual narcissism, but I will tell you, I can see when things feel off for myself and for others. One of them being we are hiding or becoming conflict avoidant because we have to go, quote unquote, meditate, or we haven't done our spiritual ritual for the day, so then we just can't handle the world, or we're getting into this competition space where I know more than you, and I practice more spiritual rituals than you do, and oh, you read this book, oh well, I read that book 6 months ago, I already know that. Like, I'm just trying to think of different examples that might come up. And what I'm noticing when we talked about when self-care becomes selfish, gosh, I heard, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, Jim Lockard, he's an Edgewalker. He's in my Edgewalker group. He's a spiritual intelligence coach. He's going to be a guest on the podcast. He said something in an Edgewalker facilitator meeting, and I was like, that's what we were trying to say. That's what we were talking about. We are practicing these skills so we can show up for others, so we can make wise and compassionate decisions, even under great stress, not so we can go and hide because we're so sensitive to the world that we have to just cocoon ourselves all the time. And it's really easy to do that because it feels so good. Mm-hmm. I mean, gosh, I have days where I'm like, I don't feel tapped in. Mm-hmm. I didn't have time to do what I love to do to feel tapped in. Maybe burn a little cinnamon stick or sage, or, say a little prayer, light a candle, whatever that looks like for me. Maybe I love guided visualization meditations. And then I start beating myself up, right? Because then you go on Instagram and you see all the pop culture-y posts that's really popular right now. And they're ahead of me. I'm behind. That's when this is like, no. Let's get back to why we're doing this. We are doing this so we can make the world a better place. So we can make our legacy shine through. And our legacy is who we are at home, just as much as how you and I are showing up in this conversation right now. What do I look like behind closed doors when I'm speaking? Am I making wise and compassionate decisions for myself and for my relationships? What does that look like? And am I practicing that when I'm under great stress? That's the kicker. Are we doing it when we're under great stress? That's what spiritual intelligence is. And so I see sometimes this avoidance come up when great stress occurs. I can't handle that. I can't be around that energy. Their energy is just affecting me so much. I can't handle it anymore. Well, we're practicing these skills so we can handle it. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I do. You're reminding me of our conversation, that episode. We did get into that, and I do, clearly remember that was one of the things that we discussed. And you're right. And I think that that's part of what I see happening a lot today, is that we get inflated because we're doing all of these practices and we have all of these behaviors that may be perceived as, spiritual or spiritually enlightened. But like you said, when it comes to the competition or the test, or however you want to look at it, when it comes to you showing up, then all of a sudden, you choose not to. You choose not to engage. And as long as you're aware that you're not ready yet, then I see no issue with it. I think the issue is when you then exalt yourself and pretend that you're not engaging because you're above this or that. So that what you just shared really resonated. I think it's also important to explore not necessarily on the flip side, but on another side of this. How do you hold or set boundaries for yourself when you are trying to practice really spiritually nurturing behaviors and you're trying to focus and not kind of get distracted from your journey in terms of your own spiritual growth, intelligence, enlightenment? How do you hold boundaries in that process?
Yeah. So by no means am I suggesting that you put yourself in a space where you will collapse or suffer, right? That might be harmful to you. When we were talking about that before, what I am suggesting is that we take a look at why we are doing these things, these practices. Are we doing them for self-gratification, or are we doing them because we want to make this world a better place? And that starts with us and our relationships, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to answer your question also. The quote that came to mind, I can't remember who authored it. We'll drop it in the show notes, but the people in our lives are not in the way of our spiritual growth. They are our spiritual growth. They show up for us because they're there for our spiritual growth, right? And I saw another quote. One day I was so irritated. And I was like, what? I just want it to be peaceful and, everything flow. And this quote kind of came across my phone, and it said, maybe the universe is asking you to be who you say you are, kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Thank you for the slap in the face. I needed it to snap out of it. So on the other side of that, that's all spiritual intelligence too. That's all coaching. That's all skills. How do I make wise and compassionate decisions for myself? How do I maybe interact with toxic family members, let's say, that's coming up in a way that protects me, where I hold boundaries and I can send them love from afar? How do I do that in a toxic workspace? How do I hold boundaries for myself? If my health is starting to suffer, of course, I'm going to need to make some decisions, some self-care decisions that are in order. The other thing, how do I align with the ebb and flow of life? Skill 21, as you're familiar with from our talks. When do I know if an obstacle is coming up for me, and how can I discern whether to push or whether to pause? How do I practice seeking guidance for that from a higher power, my higher self? So there's definitely ways that we can still preserve our energy. Also, let's say we're doing deep work and we aren't avoiding and we're really making change and we're interacting with others. You know, a great energy clearing never hurts. Resetting. Let's say we speak in front of hundreds of people on a stage. I'm just, a keynote speaker. All of that energy in the room, really nice to go do whatever feels good for you as far as an energy clearing. To just if anything has, attached to me in this situation, let me release it and just recenter and get back to myself. And for some people, that's a hike in nature. For others, it's a meditation. For some, it might be a saging. For some, it might be making a Reiki appointment. So there's tools that we can use to reset and also to set beforehand too, when we're interacting with others, that we may feel like, I don't know if I want our energy mingling, but I want to be here to help. So let me envision this protective golden light around me, and only love can penetrate it. Otherwise, any negative energy that is around, it's going to hit the outside of that bubble and kind of melt down, and it won't affect me. There's different tools and stuff like that I teach and share. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What other tools do you use in your practice?
Yeah, I use a lot of different tools. Well, first I use the main training from my executive coaching certification. I use my corporate background for many years. All of that tactical business stuff has come in very, very handy with clients. We combine that tactical with the ethereal. So I use the spiritual intelligence skills. Those are something nice and tangible that people can view. I also use the Edgewalker skills and qualities. We tap into those, knowing the future, manifesting. The modalities that I use have a pretty big modality catalog that I dip into. Sometimes we'll follow the phases of the moon. If you're a private client of mine, that's something extra that you get. You get some affirmations. I'm a certified moonologer, so I can see where the moon is for you specifically and give you some energetic things that you can do during that time. So that's really fun to tap into that. I also have deeply studied the tarot for many years, and I use that in an archetypal way with my clients. Even when we're talking about business, I could get a flash of a card, and then it's a message for you. And what do we do with that? So, yeah, there's probably so much more I'm forgetting, but that's what's coming to me now.
It's awesome. One of the tools that I have enjoyed from you is your book. And also, I'm going to call it a workbook, but correct me if that's not what it's called. But can you share a little bit more with us about the inspiration for that book and a little bit about the book and also the workbook that comes with it?
Yeah. So the Create Magic at Work paperback is full of activities that I authored for leaders for the workplace that they can utilize in a faith neutral way. It just elevates emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence. Really what it does is it fosters productivity and connecting with others, seeing the humanity in each other. And by default, you see that your team's synergy increases and improves. The other thing is you can do these activities from an individual perspective. So there's a few activities in the book, like journaling with a twist, intention setting. There's all kinds of ways that a leader can just grab it and flip through the pages and pick something to utilize or use it as a jumping off point creatively. I also authored a journal prompt card deck from that book that you can use with teams in the workplace or with yourself. And you can pull a card, and everybody that listens to the Create Magic at Work podcast hears at the end of the episode that I pull a card for the guest and for the listeners, and they get a message for the day. So the book has a lot of magic in it. I purposely picked a Scholastic book editor to make it feel childlike and whimsical. That was one of the things when I was younger was my favorite, was the Scholastic book fairs. I was always the girl that wanted to just stay in my room and read. So that was one of my favorite things. I also, there's illustrations in it. not really what you would think of for a corporate leadership book. And then Chad Beckerman designed the Create Magic at Work book, and he did the Diary of a Wimpy Kid book. So when you hold it, hopefully you can feel all that and feel inspired.
That's wonderful. So if one of our listeners wanted to get in touch with you, wanted to work with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, I really want to encourage anyone listening that felt inspired to reach out to me. I'm very accessible, like we talked about with my private client experience. So you can just schedule a 30-minute call with me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. The website's createmagicatwork.net. You're listening to the Create Magic at Work podcast right now. So in the show notes, if you click, there's one link that I always put, and it links you to everything. It'll take you to everything that's going on with me. You can schedule a session with me and just chat. If you feel called to connect, I'd love to talk to you.
Well, I encourage all of our listeners to reach out to Amy. She is an amazing coach, and she has just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful offering for you as a client. So please reach out to her. It will be well worth your time, well worth the investment. And I just appreciate you so much. And I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have this chat with you today.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I'm very appreciative and grateful that you flipped the script on me on the Create Magic at Work podcast. So thanks, Seyyida. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I appreciate you. Hey everyone, Amy here. I am so excited to share this news with you. If you've been a longtime listener of the podcast, or even if you're new, you probably know that I weave spiritual intelligence through all of the episodes of Create Magic at Work. And we often talk about where you are at with making wise and compassionate decisions, what it looks like to be a wise and effective change agent. How do I put my ego aside and operate from my higher self? And if you've ever been curious as to what level you're sitting at in your life in those skills, I have some great news for you. I have loaded the SQ21 assessment on the Create Magic at Work website. This is something that only my private clients have access to in a coaching partnership with me. However, I have decided to give everyone access to the SQ21 assessment at a generous price, a small fee. You can take the assessment at createmagicatwork.net/shop, and you will get a printout that you can take with you the rest of your life as to where you're sitting, what level you're sitting at in the 21 skills of spiritual intelligence. This is an amazing opportunity. I encourage you to take advantage of it. Again, if you've ever been listening to all of the past episodes like, I wonder where I sit at making wise and compassionate decisions, or I wonder where I sit at being able to access my higher self, explore that curiosity and go to the website and take the assessment. I will also have that link dropped in the show notes so it's easily accessible to you here after the episode. And again, if you have any questions or if you just want to have a chat with me, I'm always available for a complimentary 30-minute coffee chat, so you can explore that as well. But get over to the website, take that assessment, and give yourself the gift of something that you can take with you for the rest of your life. Sending magic to you. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.